Ethan Cole arrived at Maple Street a little after 9 in the evening. The sky was cloudy, the wind was cold, and the streetlights flickered like they were tired of working overtime. He parked his small utility van in front of House No. 22 and stepped out, with his tool bag slung over his shoulder. He had barely closed the door when the front door of the house opened. Mira Dane stood there, holding a flashlight pointed at the floor like it was a nervous habit. She looked tired, like someone who had not slept well for several days. Her eyes were alert, though too alert, as if she had been waiting for him with both worry and relief. "Thanks for coming, Ethan," she said softly. "No problem," he replied. "Your brother asked me to check on the heater, said it keeps shutting off." Mira nodded, stepping aside so he could enter. "Yes, but it's more than that. Something strange is happening." Ethan raised an eyebrow. He had known Mira for years, and she was not someone who used words like strange easily. She was logical, careful, usually calm. Tonight she looked like she was on edge. "What do you mean?" he asked as he stepped inside. "The heater makes sounds," she said, closing the door behind them. "Not normal sounds. It clicks, then hums. Then it vibrates, like it's trying to wake up. And sometimes, it pulses light. Blue light." Ethan sighed. "Maybe it's just the power regulator." But Mira shook her head. "Ethan, it whispers." He stopped walking. "Whispers?" "Yes. Not like words. More like tiny pieces of sound. Like someone trying to speak through a bad radio." He gave a slow nod, though he wasn't convinced. "Okay. Let me look at it. Probably just an old circuit." Mira didn't answer. Instead, she glanced toward the hallway that led to the basement. She seemed hesitant to even walk there. Ethan noticed. She swallowed. "Just don't let me stay up alone tonight." Her voice wasn't embarrassed or shy. It wasn't suggestive. It was scared. Plain, simple fear. From someone who had been dealing with a strange problem for longer than she felt safe with. Ethan adjusted his tool bag. "I'll stay until it's fixed." That seemed to calm her a little. She nodded, and finally walked toward the basement door. The basement was dim, and the small bulb hanging from the ceiling flickered when they turned it on. The air smelled slightly burnt, like overheated plastic. The water heater sat in the corner, a silver cylinder that had been installed only 6 months earlier. Except it didn't look like a heater anymore. The metal surface had faint blue lines running through it, lines Ethan had never seen on any heater model. Some were thin, some thick, forming patterns he couldn't understand. They looked almost like circuits built into the metal itself. "What brand is this?" Ethan asked quietly. Mira wrapped her arms around herself. "I thought it was normal. The technician who installed it 6 months ago said it was an eco-efficient fusion unit. But I can't find that company online anymore." Ethan crouched next to the device. "Let me check the serial number." There was no serial number. Instead, he found a panel on the side with no screws, no bolts, just a smooth metal patch that felt warmer than the rest. He pressed lightly, expecting nothing. The patch moved. A thin section slid open silently, revealing a small compartment inside. Ethan froze. Inside was a glowing core, pale blue, shifting like liquid light. The core was surrounded by tiny metal rods and thin wires that didn't look human-made. They were too thin, too perfect, and they pulsed with a soft rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "What is that?" Mira whispered from behind him. Ethan had no answer. He had repaired hundreds of machines, from old water pumps to fusion-powered stabilizers. He had never seen anything like this. The core pulsed again. A small burst of blue energy flashed across the surface of the heater. The lights in the basement flickered. The house hummed, almost like a giant tuning fork. Mira flinched. "It's doing it again." Ethan leaned closer. "This isn't a heater. I was afraid you'd say that. He took out a scanner from his bag. It wasn't advanced, just a simple field analyzer he used for electrical grids. But the moment he pointed it toward the core, the scanner made a sharp, beeping protest and shut off instantly. Ethan stared at it. That shouldn't happen. What does it mean? Mira asked. It means whatever this is. It's not like anything built on Earth. The core pulsed again, stronger this time. The blue lines on the cylinder brightened. Mira stepped back. Is it going to explode? No, Ethan said, though he wasn't fully sure. It's stabilizing energy. It's like a relay system. Relay for what? For communication. Ethan stood slowly. I think this device is receiving a signal. Mira's breath caught. From where? Ethan looked at her. Then, he looked toward the small basement window, facing the sky. From above, the house lights flickered again. Then came a sound, a small, short pulse of audio, like something trying to break through static. Ethan and Mira both froze. The device hummed again. Another pulse. It wasn't a whisper like she described. It was clearer now. Louder. Like something was trying harder to speak. What if someone is contacting it? Mira whispered. Someone? Ethan repeated. Or something. He reached for the panel again, trying to close it. But the core reacted to his movement. A ring of light expanded outward, like a ripple across the metal. The ripple hit the basement walls, making them vibrate. Ethan stumbled back, steadying himself. Then came the third pulse. This time it wasn't a sound. It was a message. A faint voice, synthetic, digital, not human at all, spoke in a short burst of unknown phonetic tones. The language didn't sound like anything on Earth. The tones echoed through the basement, vibrating through the floorboards. Mira's eyes widened in terror. Ethan, what is it saying? I don't know, he said. But that wasn't random. That was structured. That was a message. 44. The device suddenly went silent. Too silent. Even the house itself seemed to hold its breath. Ethan checked the temperature. Checked his scanner again. Checked the core. Everything was still. No pulses. No energy surges. No sound. But that wasn't comforting. It felt like calm before something bigger. What now? Mira whispered. Ethan looked around, listening carefully. After a moment, he heard something new. The outside world was quiet. Too quiet. The street outside had always been peaceful at night, but this was different. No humming streetlights. No cars in the distance. No electric buzz from nearby houses. Everything had gone dead. Mira, Ethan whispered. I think the device just sent a reply. A reply? To what? Ethan swallowed. To whoever was contacting it. Mira stepped forward cautiously. Ethan, what if they come here? He didn't answer. She looked at him with worried eyes. You said the signal came from above. What if something is up there? Ethan finally responded. Then they know exactly where the signal came from. Mira hugged herself again, fear returning to her face. Ethan, please don't leave me alone tonight. He shook his head gently. I'm not going anywhere. He lifted his tool bag again and looked at the device. He had no idea what it was, where it came from, or what message it had sent to the sky. But one thing was clear. Something had started, and it wasn't finished. The core pulsed again, just once, quietly. But this time the pulse sounded different, almost like an answer from something far away. Ethan stared at the glowing light. Whatever had heard that pulse was already on its way. For a few seconds after the strange pulse faded, the basement felt unreal, quiet, tense, and too still to be natural. Ethan stood near the glowing core, watching the faint blue light flicker inside it like a heartbeat slowing down. Mira stayed close to the stairs, gripping the railing as if it was the only stable thing in the room. Ethan finally exhaled. We need to get upstairs. If something reacts to the signal, we should be ready. Mira nodded quickly, not arguing. They climbed the creaking wooden steps, closing the basement door behind them. In the living room, the lights flickered again, then shut off entirely. The heater's energy pulse must have shorted more than just the basement lights. Ethan checked the nearest lamp, tapping it lightly. Dead. Power's out, he said quietly. But the whole house? Mira asked. Even the emergency lights? Yeah. That device must have interfered with everything. Mira walked to the window, lifting the curtain. The street outside was almost completely dark. Every house had its lights off. The street lamps, which usually cast a pale yellow glow, were black. Even the neighbors' solar porch lights weren't shining. Mira swallowed hard. Ethan, this isn't normal. No, he agreed. He stepped to the window beside her and looked out. The clouds above were thick, hiding the moon. A cold wind blew down the street, but no cars passed, no dogs barked, no voices echoed. It felt like a whole neighborhood frozen in place. Then Ethan saw it, just a flicker of motion above the houses. A small shadow drifting behind the clouds. At first he thought it was a bird, but it was too steady, too controlled. And it didn't flap wings. It moved like a drone, smooth, calculated, quiet. But it wasn't any drone he recognized. Mira noticed the change in his expression. What is it? Did you see something? Maybe, Ethan said slowly. Something moved above the roofs. Something small, but too smooth to be normal. Mira's breath hitched. You think it's connected to the device? Ethan didn't want to answer too fast. He didn't want to scare her more than she already was. But he also didn't want to lie. I think something responded to the signal, he admitted. Mira shut the curtain. What do we do? Ethan paced, thinking. First, we don't panic. Second, we stay quiet and keep the house dark, so nothing sees movement inside. Mira nodded, holding her arms tightly. She was trying to stay calm, but the fear was visible on her face. A soft clicking came from outside, 3 short taps, like metal touching metal. Mira froze. What was that? Ethan listened. The clicking repeated, this time slightly closer. He moved to the front door and looked through the peephole. He saw nothing at first. Then something passed by the edge of the porch, quick, low to the ground, like a shadow sliding across the concrete. It wasn't shaped like a person. It was too small and too smooth. He stepped back from the door. There's something outside. A drone or a scout device. Mira backed away too. We need to hide. No, Ethan said. We need information first. Let me use my analyzer. He pulled out a small handheld device from his tool bag, the same one that shut off in the basement. He pressed the power button, hoping it would work. The screen lit up dim, but working. Good, Ethan muttered. He set it to scan for airborne signals. The device beeped twice, then flashed a warning. Unidentified frequency detected high activity. What does that mean? Mira asked. It means multiple devices are in the area, not just one. Mira took a shaky breath. Ethan, are we in danger? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved to the back window, opening the curtain just an inch. He saw another shadowed shape, this one perched on the fence. It crouched like a metallic spider, its legs thin and sharp. A faint blue line glowed along its body, matching the color inside the heater device. Ethan whispered, Mira, they're here for the core. Mira covered her mouth. Why? Why would they want it? Because it isn't ours, Ethan said, and they must think you stole it. I didn't, Mira whispered loudly. I didn't even know. I know, Ethan said gently. As if responding to her voice, the spider-like drone lifted its head, if it even had a head, and scanned the window with a faint glow. Ethan immediately dropped the curtain. Did it see us? Mira asked, panic rising. No idea. But it definitely heard something. The clicking sound returned, now coming from both sides of the house. One set of clicks on the left wall. Another on the right. Ethan took a deep breath. Okay. We need a plan. What kind of plan? Mira asked. A defense plan, he said. If they're tracking the energy signature, they'll try to enter the house. And we need to stop them. Mira stared. Stop them? Ethan, I'm not a fighter. You don't have to be, he said. I just need your help setting things up. I've improvised defense systems before, just never inside a house. She blinked. Are you serious? Completely. Mira hesitated, then nodded firmly. Okay. Tell me what to do. Ethan grabbed his tool bag and dumped it on the floor. He sorted through wires, batteries, small EMP chips, magnetic coils, and power converters. He grabbed a handful of old metal pipes from the basement earlier, thinking they might be useful, and now they were. He opened the hallway closet and pulled out extra extension cords, a portable battery pack, and even a spare cooking pan. Mira watched him gather items that made no sense together. Ethan, are these weapons? Improvised, he said. Humans do that well. She gave a nervous laugh. I guess so. Ethan worked fast. First, he connected the portable battery pack to a coil and attached it to the metal pan. What's that supposed to do? Mira asked. Act as an electromagnetic disruptor. If any drone gets close, the pan will release a short EMP burst. Might fry them, might just stun them. I'll take either. He placed the device near the front door. Next, he unplugged the microwave in the kitchen and rewired a part of it to create a shortwave emitter. Mira stared at it. Isn't this dangerous? Very, Ethan said, but less dangerous than letting them inside. They placed the microwave emitter near the back window and pointed it outward. Then he rigged small buzz alarms made from leftover tool parts and placed them near windows and entry points to detect movement. Mira helped every step, handing him tools, moving furniture, holding wires while he connected them. And little by little, the house transformed from a normal suburban home into a strange, improvised defense grid. Finally, Ethan stood back and wiped his forehead. Okay. We're as ready as we can be. Mira stood beside him, breathing hard. Do you think it'll be enough? I hope so, he said. Now we just wait. They moved to the living room, crouching behind the sofa where they had a good view of the windows without being exposed. The house was dark, except for the faint blue glow still leaking from the basement door. Outside, the clicking grew louder, closer. Suddenly, a sharp metallic tap hit the front window. Mira gasped, covering her mouth. Another tap hit the back window, and then the sound of something landing on the roof, light but unmistakable. Ethan steadied his breathing. They're scouting for a way in. Mira whispered, Oh no. The spider-like drone from earlier crawled across the front porch, its blue lights glowing brighter. It pressed its legs against the doorframe and scanned the lock. A soft electronic beep echoed. It's trying to open the door, Ethan whispered. He reached for the portable coil detonator he built. If the drone pushed the door open even a little, the EMP pan would activate. The drone paused. Then it lifted one leg and tapped the door again, harder. The lock clicked. The door moved a fraction of an inch. The EMP pan exploded with a soft electric crack. A flash of blue light burst outward, filling the entryway. The drone screamed a high-pitched metallic screech and collapsed instantly, its legs curling like a crushed machine. Mira flinched but looked relieved. It worked. Ethan didn't celebrate. He listened carefully. Because after the drone fell silent, 3 more clicked in response. From the roof. From the backyard. From the left side of the house. Mira's voice trembled. Ethan, they're surrounding us. Ethan tightened his grip on the tool in his hand. I know. He looked toward the basement door, where the faint blue glow continued pulsing. Whatever that device is, they want it. And they won't stop Until they get inside. Mira swallowed hard. Ethan nodded. Outside, the clicking grew louder, and the night visitors began their approach. The first drone falling to the EMP trap should have given Ethan and Mira a moment of relief. But it didn't. Instead, the house grew even quieter, as if every machine outside had stopped to listen. The air felt thick, like the calm before a storm. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Ethan crouched behind the sofa with Mira. His breath was steady, but inside, his mind raced. He knew the drones outside weren't simple machines. They were smart, adaptive, careful. They were not going to give up because one of them fell. Mira kept her hands pressed together tightly. She was scared, but she looked ready to follow Ethan's lead. "What do they want now?" she whispered. "They're deciding their next move," Ethan replied softly. They weren't expecting resistance. A metallic tapping broke the silence. Then another. Then a third, slower, more rhythmic. Mira closed her eyes. "They're signaling each other." "Yeah," Ethan said. "Coordinating." He peeked over the sofa's edge. Through the small slit in the curtain, he could see dark shapes moving across the yard. 3 small figures, low to the ground, sliding like shadows. Blue glows pulsed from their bodies, faint and cold. The drone on the roof moved next. They could hear its claws scraping gently against the shingles. It wasn't rushing. It was scanning, studying. "They're planning to break in from multiple sides," Ethan said. Mira swallowed. "If we do nothing." "Yes, but we won't let that happen." The drone on the roof stopped moving. Silence. Then, a sharp metallic strike hit the back door. Mira jumped. "They're trying the back." Ethan grabbed the microwave emitter he positioned earlier. "Follow me." They crawled toward the kitchen. The back door rattled again, harder this time. Something heavy climbed the frame, scratching metal against wood. Ethan plugged the microwave emitter into the portable power cell. "Hold the switch," he said, handing Mira the control pad. "What happens when I press it?" she whispered. "It sends a wave strong enough to overload any unshielded circuit within 2 meters. Will it damage us too? If we stay behind the counter?" "No." Mira nodded, ready. The drone outside made another strike. This time, the back door hinge bent inward. Wood cracked. Ethan signaled Mira. Mira pressed the switch. A deep hum filled the kitchen as the microwave emitter shot out a wave of invisible energy. The window glass shook. Dishes rattled. Outside, a loud electrical snap followed by a screech of twisting metal. Ethan peeked through the curtain. A drone lay on the ground, smoking. Its legs twitched once, then went still. "That's 2. Ethan whispered. Mira let out a shaky breath. "Did we get all of them?" Both of them knew the answer. No. A soft, scraping sound came from the roof again. Then something sharp hit the living room window. And the click-click-click noise returned faster now, more aggressive. "They're testing the defenses," Ethan said. "They'll find a weak point soon." Mira's eyes darted toward the basement door. "Ethan, what if they're not just here for the device?" "What do you mean? What if—" "The device is signaling them to come in." "Not you." Ethan paused. The idea was terrifying, but not impossible. The core inside the heater had activated on its own, sending signals into the sky. Maybe it wasn't just contacting something friendly. Maybe it had been calling out for retrieval. And now the drones were answering. He moved to the basement door, pressed his ear against it. The core pulsed, softly steady, rhythmic, almost calm. It didn't feel dangerous, but it didn't feel harmless either. "We keep it sealed," Ethan said. "If they get into the basement, we're done." Another crash hit the front window. This time, the glass cracked. Not fully, but enough to show the drones were no longer testing, they were attacking. Ethan rushed to the front hallway, stepping quietly so the drones wouldn't hear him inside. 2 drones were outside. One crawled across the wall like an insect, scanning the window. The other sat on the porch floor, with its legs spread wide, cutting the door frame with tiny sparks. "They're trying to cut their way in," Ethan whispered. Mira joined him, her voice shaking. "What do we do now?" "I need to set off the coil trap near the window. It won't take them all down, but it'll slow them." He reached for the coil detonator he built earlier, a small device connected to metal piping wrapped with wires. He pressed the ignition switch. The coil made a sharp buzzing sound. Then, a burst of white-blue electricity shot across the window frame. The drone climbing the wall spasmed violently, losing its grip and falling to the porch with a loud clang. The second drone turned immediately, scanning for the source. Its blue lights flashed red, a sign of aggression. Mira stepped back. "Yes," Ethan said, "which means we've only made it more determined." The fallen drone twitched and stood back up. Not fully functional, but not disabled. Then the one on the porch leaped. It struck the window. The glass shattered. Mira screamed, and Ethan grabbed her arm, pulling her back behind the sofa. A small metallic leg slid through the broken glass, followed by a glowing blue eye. "EMP pan is ready," Ethan whispered, grabbing another trigger. "Wait for it to fully enter." The drone crawled halfway through the window, scanning the dark interior of the living room. Its blue eye glowed brighter. It lifted a leg. "Now!" Ethan shouted. He pressed the trigger. The EMP burst exploded across the window frame again. The drone jerked violently, sparks shooting from its core. It collapsed back out the window, landing on the porch. It didn't move again. "That's 3," Ethan said, breathing hard. Mira leaned against the sofa. "How many more?" Before Ethan could answer, a heavy thud hit the roof. Not a small one. Not like a tiny drone. Something bigger had arrived. Both of them froze. Footsteps heavy, slow, deliberate walked across the shingles. Mira's face went pale. They brought something else. Ethan listened carefully. The steps were almost rhythmic, like something mechanical, but larger and more powerful. He whispered, "A command unit." "What is that?" "Something that controls the smaller drones. Smarter, stronger, more dangerous." A metal claw scraped across the roof, testing the structure. Then, wham! A massive strike hit the attic floor. Wham! Another. They were trying to break in from above now. Mira backed up. "They're going to break through." "Not if I can help it," Ethan said, grabbing the strongest battery pack he had. "Come on." They ran to the attic stairs. The claw strikes grew louder. Dust fell from the ceiling. The house shook with each hit. Ethan opened the attic door, climbed halfway up the stairs, and placed the battery pack on the top step. He connected 2 magnetic rods to it, forming a crude trap. "What is that?" Mira whispered. "A magnetic pulse bomb. If that thing breaks through here, it's going to feel this." Another heavy strike made the wooden beams groan. Mira grabbed Ethan's sleeve. "Is it enough?" He didn't know, but he nodded anyway. "It has to be." They backed down the stairs. The ceiling cracked. A dark, large shadow pressed through the broken attic boards. A metal arm, thick, sharp, glowing blue, reached downward. Mira gasped. "Ethan!" Ethan pressed the detonator. A blast of electromagnetic force burst upward. The lights flickered. The house trembled. The creature above let out a low, guttural mechanical roar as the magnetic wave slammed into it. Its arm jerked violently, then retreated back into the attic. Silence. Ethan waited, breath held. Then, a final, heavy thud hit the roof, something collapsing. Mira exhaled shakily. Did it fall?" "I think so," Ethan said. "But don't celebrate yet. Because outside," more clicking sounds echoed. Dozens this time. The street came alive with tiny mechanical voices. Mira whispered, horrified, "There are more coming." Ethan stood tall, breathing steady now. "Then we keep fighting." But deep inside, he knew the truth. There were too many, and whatever waited in orbit had only just begun to notice them. The clicking outside grew louder with every passing second. Dozens, maybe more, machines filled the dark street. Ethan and Mira crouched behind the sofa again, listening to the strange, cold rhythm echoing through Maple Street. Mira whispered, "Ethan, we can't fight all of them." "I know," Ethan said quietly, eyes fixed on the broken window. "But we only need to hold out until morning." "But that's hours away." Ethan checked the basement door again. The faint blue pulse still glowed through the thin gap at the bottom. "No, not morning. Until help arrives." "Help?" Mira looked at him with confusion. "Who would know we're in trouble?" Ethan hesitated. When the device sent out its pulse, it didn't just contact those drones. It sent a signal high into the sky. And if I'm right, someone else heard it. Before Mira could reply, a loud, metallic thud hit the front porch. Something large stepped onto the wooden boards. Mira covered her mouth. "Another big one?" "No," Ethan said, his voice tense. The wooden porch creaked as the weight moved. Then a new sound echoed. A slow, heavy mechanical breath, not like the light clicking of the drones. This was deeper, more powerful. A creature or a machine built for force, not scouting. Ethan prepared the remaining EMP coil and signaled Mira to get behind the kitchen counter. "If it enters, stay low. Wait for my signal." Mira nodded, shaking, but determined. A metal hand gripped the shattered window frame. Unlike the spider-like drones, this machine was tall, humanoid in shape, with a thick, armored arm that glowed with several blue lines. It pushed the curtain aside with slow, deliberate motion. For a moment, the creature paused as if studying the room. Then it stepped inside. The floorboards groaned under its weight. Its glowing eyes scanned the area, adjusting focus like a camera lens. Ethan hid behind the sofa, coil detonator ready. The machine took one more heavy step. "Now!" Ethan shouted. He slammed the detonator. A violent surge of electricity burst outward from the coil. The machine roared a deep, metallic sound as sparks exploded across its body. It staggered, its lights flickering wildly. But it didn't fall. "It's not enough," Mira cried. The machine raised its arm toward Ethan. Ethan grabbed a metal pipe and dived aside just as a blue energy bolt blasted through the couch, tearing the fabric and leaving a smoking hole in the wall. Ethan rolled to his feet. "Mira, microwave emitter." Mira scrambled to the kitchen and slammed the switch. Another wave of disruptive energy filled the house. The machine jerked violently. It swung its arm, crashing into the dining table, shattering wood everywhere. It staggered again, lights flickering faster now. "Come on, fall," Ethan muttered. Finally, with a heavy metallic groan, the machine collapsed onto the floor. The lights on its body dimmed until only a faint pulse remained. Mira ran to Ethan. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," he said, breathing hard. "That thing almost vaporized me." Before they could catch their breath, more clicking echoed outside, closer, more frenzied, like the smaller drones were reacting to the fall of their leader. Ethan peeked through the broken window. At least a dozen glowing blue eyes now stared toward the house from the street. "They're angry," he said, "and they're coming all at once." Mira's voice trembled. "We can't stop that many." Ethan knew she was right. Their traps were almost all used. Their power supply was nearly gone, and the house had taken too much damage. But something else happened. The basement door pulsed with bright blue light, brighter than ever before. The energy inside the core swirled, almost frantic. Mira stared at it. "Ethan, it's reacting to the danger." "No." Ethan stepped toward the door slowly. Maybe it's doing more than that. He opened the basement door. The core glowed like a small sun now. Lines of energy expanded outward, humming louder and louder, as if the device were building to a final signal. Mira shielded her eyes. Ethan stared at the swirling light. "It's calling again," he whispered. "Not to the drones, but to something else." The core pulsed once. The entire house vibrated. Then another pulse. The air filled with a low hum that grew stronger and stronger, vibrating through the walls, the floor, and their bodies. "It's sending a distress beacon," Ethan realized. "A strong one." Mira grabbed his arm. "To who?" Ethan's eyes widened. "To anyone who can hear." And someone did hear. The sky outside boomed with a deep, echoing thunder. Not natural thunder. Something massive broke through the clouds, its engines roaring with a sound deeper than any aircraft Ethan had ever heard. A bright beam of white light shot down from the sky, sweeping over Maple Street like a silent searchlight. Mira ran to the window. "Ethan." He looked. A huge, dark shape descended silently through the clouds, sleek, sharp-edged, metallic, nothing like human aircraft. Its surface shimmered with reflective plates, and its engines glowed with deep purple energy. A starship. A human starship. Mira gasped. "Is that ours?" Ethan nodded slowly, stunned. "United Terran Navy. A stealth frigate." The ship hovered low, blocking out half the sky. Smaller lights separated from its underside. Human drop drones, painted with military insignias. They shot downward like streaks of light. As they descended, the alien drones on the street began retreating, clicking frantically, scattering like insects exposed to daylight. One of the human drop drones unleashed a sonic blast that rolled across Maple Street like a wave. The alien machines screeched as the blast short-circuited their systems, disabling many instantly. Ethan and Mira watched as armored human soldiers landed on the pavement, firing controlled EMP rounds that took out every remaining hostile machine. It was over in minutes. When the street was silent again, a tall human officer approached Ethan's shattered window. Her uniform bore 4 silver stripes. "Admiral Reyes?" Ethan whispered, stunned. The officer nodded. "Ethan Cole, Mira Dane. You held out longer than most trained teams would have." Mira blinked. "How did you know we needed help?" Reyes pointed at the basement. "That relay core you activated was alien technology we've been tracking for months. When it sent the long-range distress beacon, we knew exactly where to go." Ethan stepped forward. "So this thing is dangerous," Reyes said. "But because of you two, we captured hostile drones, prevented a wider attack, and retrieved a device we've been hunting for a year." Mira wiped her eyes, overwhelmed. "We didn't mean to get involved." Reyes softened her tone. "You didn't choose this, but you handled yourselves with courage and creativity." Ethan looked at the burned drone remains and broken walls. "We did our best. And it was more than enough," Reyes said. "Humanity will remember this." Soldiers began collecting the alien drones. The frigate above dimmed its engines, preparing to depart. Mira watched the sky slowly brighten with early dawn light. "It's finally over." Ethan nodded. "Yeah." Then he glanced at the basement door again. "I should finish fixing your actual water heater." Mira laughed, tired, relieved, genuine. "Yes, please. I would really like some hot water after all this." Ethan smiled. For one long, terrifying night, they had faced machines from another world. Humans, ordinary humans, had stood against something designed to overwhelm them. And they won. Humanity, once again, proved something simple and powerful. They don't go down easy. They fight. And tonight,